is the Waupaca City Plan Commission meeting.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get going. Good morning, or good morning. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Plan Commission. We do have a couple public hearings. For the record, we got Commissioners Olson. Thank you. And Commissioner Dana and Commissioner Justin, Commissioner Henry, and I believe the mayor is joining us via online. So we do have a quorum. So we should take these each individually. So our first public hearing is on a conditional use permit. Can you go back to the agenda? Yep. For 111 South Main Street. So I think we usually set these up. Our staff will kind of introduce the issue for us.
Happy to. So this one is a conditional use permit request for 111 South Main Street. That is here on City Square. It is for a mobile/communications tower. This is part of a project that our IT department is working on to connect City Hall to our new Department of Public Works facility on Harding Street. To do this, they did go through an extensive process to look into towers and fiber. A tower was selected. They have brought this forward to the council already, but we are now going through the due diligence process and getting the conditional use and associated site plan permits. So this is to construct a tower here at City Hall. It would actually replace the current tower that's out there. So there will still only be, at the very end of all this, there will only still be one tower.
Okay. So the purpose of the public hearing is to receive comment, and then later on in the agenda, we'll take the actual issue up for action. So at this point, we would take any comments in support of the conditional use permit at this time. State your name and address, and you'll be allowed 3 minutes. And let the record note there is only one person in the audience. It's Josh Werner. So, okay. So now we'd have any kind of rebuttal. Anybody speaking in opposition to the conditional use permit could do so at this point in time. They choose to do so. Hearing none, we'll close this public hearing at 5:19 p.m. We'll just move into the next one. It's a public hearing for a conditional use permit at 500 Harding Street. So, Jared, could you please set us up for that, please?
Of course. So this is the other half of the public hearing we just had. This is for the tower at the Department of Public Works facility, in which the tower here would be trying to connect to. And I'll note that this is for essential services for our Department of Public Works, so that we can communicate from here to there and get information from there to here as needed. So,
perfect. Okay, so as in the previous hearing, we would take any comments in support of the conditional permit at this time. Seeing that no one is going to comment, we would now take opposition to the conditional use permit at this time. Again, hearing none, we'll close this public hearing at 5:20 p.m. So now we need to just move into the regular agenda for the meeting. So again, let the record reflect the commissioners that were in attendance for the public hearing are all here for the main meeting. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gutsky, a second by Commissioner Olson to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the approval of the Plan Commission minutes for the October 4th meeting. They're in your packet, so you've had time to look at them. Is there any action? Now, we place these on file, right? We do approve them and place them on file, right? Okay. So we'd be looking for an action, a motion to approve and place on file.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 3 is action items. The first item is a conditional use permit for 111 South Main Street. I don't know if it's the pleasure of the commission. Would it be appropriate to take them both at once since they're kind of related? Or should we just do one at a time? Maybe we should just stick to one at a time, huh?
Since the recommendations, I would probably say one at a time.
Okay, because we are recommending to council. Okay, thanks, Jared. That's okay, good, thank you. Okay, so we'll take up the conditional use permit for 111 South Main Street. There is the staff did put some supporting documents in the packet. Again, Jared, do you want to explain and reference anything you need to reference?
Yeah, happy to. So this one starts on page 4 of your packets is the staff report. Again, this is 111 South Main here on City Square. This is for a mobile tower, mobile communication tower. Mobile towers are a conditional use throughout all of our zoning districts. So as part of this packet, and I only included it one time since it was 106 pages, but I did include our IT departments. Josh Warner put this together. Their entire memo that already went to the city council that explained their reasoning for selecting a tower. They did the price quotes between tower, fiber, pros, cons, all of that information. So that does start on page 9 of your packets. So I wanted to make sure I included that at least once, but that is in reference, of course, for actually the next
Florida
agenda item and the next one and the next one. So there's just a fair amount of information, again, showing the IT department's due diligence. They looked into every aspect of this, and their recommendation to council was this tower. Council did approve, and now we're going back and doing our due diligence to get the proper permitting through planning and zoning. So happy to take any questions. Otherwise, if you have any questions specifically for our IT director, he is in the audience here.
Commissioners, everybody have a question? Yeah, we've seen this before. I feel like our staff has done a nice job to review the options. One little interesting note, we don't charge permits for city projects, do we? They still have to pull the permit?
Still have to pull the permit.
We don't charge.
Yeah, we don't charge because it would just be the city transferring money into the same city account.
Right.
So,
are we ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make it's a recommendation.
To council?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll make that recommendation to council that we approve it.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to recommend to council the adoption of a conditional use permit for 111 South Main Street. Are there any further questions or discussion? If not, let's vote. Do we need a roll call vote on it, or is it just a voice vote?
I believe this is voice.
Is it? Okay.
it's recommendations, voice.
Okay. Then at council, they'd probably do a roll call. Okay.
That makes sense.
All right. Well, that being said, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. So on to the second piece of this, the conditional use permit for Harding Street, 500 Harding Street. I don't know. Did we need Jared to set any of this up? We kind of know what the story is here. So can we just move to any questions of the staff? I probably have one. Just in the sequencing of the construction of new public works facility, this tower would probably go up last, right? How would that work?
They want to start digging the holes ASAP as soon as this stuff gets permitted to get ahead of the frost.
Oh.
I'm waiting for everything to get approved next Tuesday before we give them the final okay to tell the company manufacturing the tower to go ahead. So There may be holes, there may be I don't know their exact timeline, and we'll figure that out once the permitting's done, but they'll get the holes. They may work on the foundation next. It may wait a while. So I think it's possible it'll be simultaneous while the building's going on. It may be some done now, some done a few months from now. It just depends on everything shakes out with getting the tower manufactured and their schedule.
Good. And there's not any kind of delays for the supply of the tower? Everything was good there? And
I'm not aware of
Okay,
anything.
good.
I'm told
Awesome.
it's about a 2-month process to get that manufactured from the time we say okay to when it's done.
Okay.
We got all the geotech done, so they have the engineering figured out.
Good.
That the tower's going to be, is it alongside the west wall? Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's going to be southwest of the building, within a couple feet of the building, so it'll be next to the generator pad, and there'll be some trees kind of in front of it. It'll be in the fenced-in area.
And this is solely for our equipment, communication equipment. The tower wasn't designed for any future potential leases or anything like that? This is just ours?
Yep, it'll be the communications to City Hall, the SCADA system, probably their two-way radio. There'll probably be some stuff with the network connection at Lakeman Field going through there.
Okay.
Yeah, with the price increases over the past 2 years. 2 years ago, for what we're paying for this, we could have had a big cell tower, not anymore. And we may not have desired to have a huge cell tower there either.
Right.
Compare the height of the new tower against the light poles at Lightman Field.
I want to say those light poles 75, 80 feet maybe?
Yeah.
Does that sound right? And the
Tower
tower's going to
is-
be 110 feet, so another 30-ish feet.
Barely noticeable.
What's our current tower now?
The one here? With the pole on top, we're about 60 feet. So these aren't, this isn't going to be a huge cell phone tower with, that's
Just trying to
got the
get
big base. It's
perspective.
going to be more smaller. And, the one here will be a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, a little bit of a bigger base because it's taller, but it's not, one of those huge cell towers like the one at Kmart, behind Kmart, for example. Or this will be, a little bit bigger than what we have here, but, not one of those huge ones.
That's called Tom Hill, right? According to the paper.
Mount Tom, yeah.
Tom Hill.
I'm just saying.
Well, they don't always get it right. They try. Mount Tom. Okay. All right. Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay. Are we ready to take action? Is there a motion on this?
Move to recommend to council.
Second.
Okay. Ivan made a motion to recommend the conditional use permit at 500 Harding Street to the city council. And Dana has seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, say no. The motion carries. Okay, so now we're at item 3C.
Say,
I gotta get my cheat sheet.
let me help you out.
Okay, so the next item is a site plan review for 111 South Main Street. So this one, I believe, is in the sole purview of the Plan Commission, right? If the commission approves it, it doesn't go to council. And then the related one, 3D, is on the other end at the Public Works facility. So, Jared?
Yeah, thank you, Henry. This one starts on page 130 of your packets. This first one is for the one here on City Square, 111 South Main Street. In staff's review, everything appeared compliant. There really wasn't a whole lot since we're in a downtown district, no landscaping. Obviously, no parking is affected by this, things like that. There is a really nice visual that Josh has provided on page 140 and on 141, showing you the general location of where this tower is going. It is a bigger picture, so you have to zoom out a little bit, but bottom left of the first picture, and then the next picture is a close-up. So on this other close-up as well, pointing out that the fence there will be extended, and the lower part of this tower will be behind the fence. So it will be somewhat screened compared to the one we have now, which is not screened at all. The next few pages beneath that, there is a visual of the height of the tower. I believe that's page 143, which is a good visual of the height of the tower. So, again, a lot of information staff reviewed, didn't bring up any issues. There really were no conditions added, and the application appeared compliant from staff standpoint.
I got a question.
Yeah, Eric, please.
So, is there any wires that hold it down, or is it just, no?
Freestanding.
I think having a little more of a barrier at the base too would kind of help to be a deterrent for somebody trying to climb it. You know, I think the current one has some kind of guard on the base to kind of keep people off of it. Sure. Okay. Anybody else? You have any other questions? Like this one, there'll be, holes, and it'll have to, be cemented in the base. So, okay. All right. So, if we're ready to take action, is there a motion to approve site plan for 111 South Main Street?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to accept the site plan by Dana and a second by Eric. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And then we move on to site plan review for 500 Harding Street. Jared?
Thank you. This one starts on page 144 of your packets. This is, again, communication tower for 500 Harding Street. This is going to be right next to the new Department of Public Works building. On page... Sorry, I had it up. On page 158, there's a good visual of where exactly this tower is going to be placed in relation to the building. This tower will be screened with a series of vegetation that will be planted in collaboration of this new Department of Public Works building. This tower will also, again, be 110 feet tall. Staff reviewed the application, and again, it was compliant. There were really no conditions added, and staff would recommend approval.
And I'm sure, Justin, you had input on placement and all that. You're
Yes.
okay?
Yep. Yep. We've
right.
had to review that. There's a fence there. There's a backup generator, so there's room for it, but it'll be a little snug.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the commissioners? All right. So, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the site plan.
Okay. Commissioner Wayne.
Second.
Oh, I like that, Commissioner Wayne.
Present.
Oh, okay. We got a first by Commissioner Wayne and a second by Commissioner Olson to approve the site plan for 500 Harding Street. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And now we're on to discussion items, the food truck ordinance amendment. And Jared, you're looking for some input on this.
Yeah, input,
Okay.
discussion. Just wanted to bring it forward to you guys. It was either brought up to staff, something staff wanted to bring up to you guys, etc. So this first one is the food truck ordinance on page 161. So this one stemmed from a series of events. So one of the first comments that it came from was our downtown partnership, as they look to have some food trucks at their events, or just out in the community more. It was heightened, the interest in looking at this when the city attempted to get food trucks for their movie series this summer, and that proved to be very difficult, very cumbersome, very tedious. And then it stemmed further from Parks and Rec directly, as they were looking, Parks and Rec and the county as they were both looking to host events, and they received multiple comments on the difficulty of having food trucks in the city. So upon bringing this up, I know I did talk to our clerk. She had said this was a point of discussion in the past. When this was all first adopted, it was actually brought forward by the old Park and Rec director. A lot of discussion that went into it of trying to make sure that the current brick and mortar businesses were protected, trying to ensure that just these were not just being placed willy-nilly and taking customers away again from our brick and mortar customers or brick and mortar residents and business owners. So a lot of thought went into it, of course, and I can fully appreciate that. Upon trying to execute it, it just seemed, again, that there was a lot added that was just very prohibitive, and just made it not, made the food trucks not interested in being here, which, again, as you're trying to get them for city events and things like that, it was very discouraging. So wanted to bring forward an amendment, proposed amendment, to be discussed, to be evaluated by you guys, taking a look at. Some of you may have been on the commission when this was discussed. Some of you may not have been. And I do apologize. I did send in the wrong one. This is not the red line, but this is the clean version. This one starts on page 161 of your packets. But I'll just kind of maybe run through some of the changes here, and I can, of course, send the red line via email to the Plan Commission just so they have that as reference. And we can discuss further maybe at another Plan Commission meeting. Some major changes in this, again, just cleaning up some very hard to enforce details and some confusing pieces that were in here. So there were sections in here, or a section in subsection 4, location restrictions that said that they cannot operate in any public street, alley, public ground, etc. But then it also went to say how if it's operating in a street, alley, public, park, etc., here are some requirements. So just some really contradicting words there. Cleaning up a little bit of like the trash receptacle must be at least 32 gallons. I don't know about you, but pretty difficult to enforce that one. They, for some reason, bring a 30-gallon trash bin. We're not going to tell them to go home kind of thing. So just a few picky pieces there. The cleanup area, again, making it more general that they need to clean up the area, but we don't have to designate within 1/2 block, as many of that is most likely not even theirs. Some pieces in here dealing with audio video equipment not being used. There are a lot of vendors nowadays that use TVs to display their menu. So a bit contradicting there. Some stuff with the power cord. On page, or under, I should say, section 5, section 5B10, if you can follow that, and I'll find it here in our packets, possibly. It's going to be on page 162 near the bottom. It's actually number 9 on here, but it had vend in the same location for more than 5 hours. So we realized even at like our movie events, they were there for 5 hours or more, by the time they started vending and by the time they totally shut down. So we went back and forth on what that should be. Again, the goal is to not have them there for an extended period of time. They're not a brick and mortar, but the 5 hours seem very limiting. So talking with our Park and Rec director, 10 hours seem to be more appropriate. Again, if that becomes more of a problem, we could always look at lowering it in the future. But that was a change that was discussed pretty significantly. And then really, once we get down into the application part is where we really tried to dive in. So a lot of comments we received. We don't really have many food trucks here in Waupaca. So when we reached out to food trucks, it was more in the Stevens Point, Fox Cities area. And after telling them kind of everything that we require, and there's just abundance of information, they kind of made comments, well, do you really want us to be there? And the comment was, well, yes, we would, but, you know, we have, this is the code requirements. We have to have you supply all this information. That included background checks of everybody employed for that truck, you know, just a lot of information requested. So we tried to make it a little easier to apply, less information requested, making it feel like not such a pressured application process, since that was one of the main complaints of it. Let's see here. So again, that was getting rid of things that were not required. List of cities where they visited or they last operated in. A statement as to whether the applicant has been convicted of any crime. You know, the argument for that was our normal businesses here don't do that, and you know, what's to say? I mean, they're open longer. There's a easier way to, if they were convicted of any crime, you know, as they're here more often, it's a, how do you say it? It would be a lot easier for them to commit a reoccurring crime as permanent business owners or business workers rather than a food truck coming in for less than 10 hours. I know our park and rec director also had a comment on this where she had worked with, I believe, I don't want to mess it up, but she had worked, I believe, with incarcerated individuals that had just been released, trying to get them back on their feet. And that food service industries is usually one of the leading industries that they go to, just because it has a sense of it's fast paced, keeps their mind off of, you know, doing anything reoccurring. And it's also that fresh start for them. So, you know, really diving deep into that, I know we don't look at that when we're, you know, going through this application process, but it seemed a bit intrusive. You know, it's not something that I feel we felt that we needed to know or have on file. You know, it's something that they're trying to get back on their feet, and we don't have to even consider that we're discriminating against them. Was that for me, or was that not for me?
No, I think he's
Okay. I will continue. We also looked at the fees. We had fees for fire inspections, background checks, plus the application. Again, as we really tried to dial down the application to make it simpler, less reviewing, you know, less need for the PD to be involved, everything else. We suggested lowering that price to $25. Again, that was a discussion. It's currently $100, but lowering it, again, showing that we're really just trying to cover the cost of our review, getting this in the system. We're not trying to nickel and dime, you know, these food trucks that are coming in and looking to, again, stimulate interest. You know, let's see here. And that's really about it for changes. Again, I guess it doesn't seem like a lot, but really simplifying the application process, reducing the fee, again, making it seem like we want the food trucks here, I think is the primary goal. I'll note, because I know there was some interesting questions on this early on from the community when we actually went and did some business visits downtown. And they just asked what we're up to, and this is one of the things I mentioned. But they had said, you know, well, you know, I'd request that you don't remove the location restriction of 150 feet from any currently operating restaurant, in which that is still intact. It is prohibited to sell within 150 feet of a licensed restaurant front door during its kitchen hours without written permission from them. So that was one of the key pieces that most restaurants wanted to remain in there, and that is something we were more than happy to accommodate. Again, a discussion of if that 150 was appropriate, if it's not. But it was kept in there for this time being. So I just wanted to point that out as we were discussing it, and it came up when talking to the public. So happy to take any questions. Again, I'll send this red line out. I apologize it was not in here. And if there's any questions after I send that out, I'm happy to answer them during that time as well. But
Or does anybody have any questions for Jared?
Sure. Under the new ordinance, so food truck operators could be here any day of the year as long as they follow everything outlined in the ordinance, right? It doesn't have to be for particular sponsored events.
nope, it does not have to be for a particular sponsored event. I believe there is an exemption for if there is a one-time event, they still have to go forward with the application. They have to be approved. But I believe we waive the $25 fee or whatever that is for a one-time event. If they're going to come at all for another time, then they would need to pay that fee. But yes, they do not have to come just for an event. If they wanted to come vend
Sure.
on Wednesday, the February 25th, your birthday, they could do that. Have the Ivan special.
Well, it's not my birthday, but a good try. And I guess my second question is, outside of the event where you solicited food trucks try to come into town, it didn't work. Have we seen a lot of activity with food trucks trying to come into the Waupaca area before, or is this something we'd be hoping to see more of in the future? I guess I'm just curious how much activity to date.
Sure. So I know this was put in with our park and rec director. I think it was his mindset that he would want to have more food truck festivals. To get a multitude of food trucks in here and really make it a community event, which I am in complete agreement with that. I've actually Stevens Point does it quite often, and I think it goes over quite well. I know there's some arguments against food truck, again, taking away business from local businesses, and I would also say there's an argument there that, well, a person can only eat at one of those local businesses so many times. But there's an opportunity that when they go to that food truck, they eat something different. And now I'm sure, just like you, if you eat something different and you start to crave that thing that's always here, again, it's going to force you to go back even earlier than you would have. So I see that as an argument. I also see the exposure as an element for food-related businesses, but also non-food-related businesses. So to have a food truck there to draw in people that maybe normally wouldn't have even come to that area, so if you have a food truck here downtown, there's going to be people that see that and go, ooh, I love gyros, and I'm going to go for a gyro, and they realize that there's 3 new businesses on Main Street that they didn't even know were there. That's the potential of that now resident coming back to those businesses. So exposure and palate cleansing, I would say, are 2 benefits that I would love to see these here more. So
They have to get the license from the city clerk. They have to have the 2 things: the seller's permit from the state of Wisconsin, and then they have to have the sign off from the county health department. Any kind of food regulations really on the county health department, right? I mean, our office, our staff aren't looking at that. They need that piece of paper to issue the permit, but the county health department are the ones that would do any kind of spot inspection or, right?
correct. Yeah, we have it in here that our fire department would do spot inspections just on fire safety.
Yeah.
We'd have them sign off that they know all NFPA, code requirements. But yes, in terms of the county health certificate side of things, they just have to have a county health certificate from a Wisconsin county. So it doesn't have to be from Waupaca County specifically. Okay. But what we would do is when they submit that application, we send that to the county. The county does follow up with that. If they get something from Portage County or Waushara, our county would call that county to verify that number is current and up to date, and then they don't do anything. If it's not current, then they'd reach back out to us and say, hey, we have a problem.
Okay.
But yes, and then they'd also do random spot inspections.
So we would probably see a draft ordinance maybe next month on this if
Yeah, draft
we're-
ordinance. Again, happy to take any comments. I won't put that draft ordinance together until
Okay.
a week and a half before, just to allow for any comments to come in. If there are an abundance of comments, it would not be in draft ordinance. It would just come back as another discussion item.
I have one question. What is the basis for the restriction in a residential district? Is that standard for other communities?
Yeah, so the residential district, part of it, the intent was we don't want somebody parking at their house and serving.
Okay.
So similar to, why we don't want them operating any other business in a residential area, just the amount of foot traffic. If it's a part of and that's in a residentially zoned district. So if they were serving in a park, within a residential zoned area, they could do that. If they were serving on a public street, they could do that. They just couldn't serve on a residentially zoned district parcel. Does that make sense?
So if they're on, just say like Deer Street, parked next to the curb, that's okay or not allowed?
So if they were parked on Deer Street on the curb, they could, as long as there's no traffic safety issues.
Okay.
If there's anything, if the PD is concerned with anything, they could come in and we could come in and have a move. If it's not a safe area for pedestrians or the truck in general, we could have a move.
Okay. So Jared, in a couple weeks, we'll see that red line version or soon. And then
I'll send it
commissioners,
to you
please review it and get any other questions you have to Jared. And then based on that, we may see a draft ordinance in the coming meetings. Okay, so now we got the next discussion topic on building maintenance ordinance.
Yeah, building maintenance. So that one's going to be on page 166 of your packets. So this is something that was brought forward by our building inspector as well as supported by our police department. So we've been dealing with a few properties in the city. And actually there's another piece that the police department has recommended, but it kind of all goes together one at a time. But we're dealing with some properties in the city that just are not in great livable condition. And one problem with our building code that we adopt through the state, the UDC, it really only applies to new. So when somebody wants to add an addition to their house, when somebody wants to build a new house, add a sunroom, add a detached garage, we follow those requirements. But after it's up, the UDC really doesn't handle maintenance. So that's where this section of code would come in. It would be a way that if there are issues happening in a home, whether maybe it's a landlord that's just not keeping up with the property, or it's an individual living in a house that should not be being lived in. These standards are put in place that we can actually do something about it. So to kind of run through these a little bit, and this would be all new, there's really no adjustments. And this was also taken bits and pieces from other communities that already have this code and are using it for this purpose. But like on page 166, again, a kitchen sink in good working order. That should be a standard. A room that allows privacy, so a bathroom with a toilet. These simple amenities that some of us just may seem like oh yeah kind of thing. There are cases where they're not present. Every kitchen sink and bathtub or shower, hygiene shall be connected to both hot and cold. So there should be able to be hot water to actually bathe yourself in. There should be a water heater. So I know our building inspector was dealing with a property where a landlord had not fixed a water heater in over 2 months. And, something that they kept asking for, and again, we couldn't really do anything about because our code doesn't cover maintenance. So, that'd be some examples from that section. minimal light standards, which some of these are, again, covered by the UDC when things are built, but not for maintaining. Ventilation, light fixtures, outlets. There should be a heater in the home. The home should not be without a heater. Page 167. Foundation floor, ceiling shall be watertight or weather-tight, watertight, rodent-proof. So again, trying to eliminate the opportunity for vermin to breed, for water to get into a basement and mold, black mold, or anything else that can affect the individual's lungs, breathing it in when they're living there. Outside stair, porch, way to get into the house should be in working order. Plumbing fixtures should be, in good working order. There shouldn't be a busted sewer pipe. Let's see, page 168. Occupancy standards, so just size. So we don't want so many people crammed into one home that it becomes unsanitary or unsafe. Again, these are bare minimum. They're really not super restrictive. A lot of these are just things that are, again, like, shouldn't that already be something people should be doing? Let's see here. And that's really the gist of it. So, just again, bare minimum starting point, I guess, from our vantage point of things that should already be being done, but in some cases aren't, whether that's landlord or owner occupied. And this would give us the ability to actually comment and send letters and do something about it. It's, again, not something that, we're going to step into everybody's home and make sure your kitchen sink is in prime working order. We just don't have time for that. This is, again, trying to solve for those major issues where maybe there's a tenant or somebody just not helping themselves. They're in really bad conditions, or the tenant has asked multiple times for something to be fixed. We can actually do something about it.
Yeah, I think in the past, we kind of referred it to the county health department, right?
Yes.
And there wasn't much that they could really do either. So this, I think, does give a tool to the city to try to make sure people are in a safe house, or safe dwelling. So it's really going to be complaint driven.
It's going to be complaint driven, or again, if there's a situation so bad that it's blatantly obvious, then it would be driven by that as well.
Okay, and this will kind of go the way of our last discussion. You
Yep.
put it in an ordinance format. Okay.
Yep, ordinance format. Again, happy to take any comments, any questions. If you feel something is missed, something too. I know Angela's not here today. Something I didn't know. Maybe I can definitely bring back next month, just as more of a discussion. I know from a realtor standpoint, she might have some good comments, thoughts. Otherwise, she'd of course see it in the ordinance format too, and we can always just hold it in ordinance format for a while. So.
Any other questions for Jared? If not, we'll go to that final discussion item, which is the mini and personal storage units.
Yeah, so this one came up actually during our strategic planning retreat. There was a comment made, again, what are best land uses for the city? What's going to be connecting to water sewer and assisting all the other utility ratepayers when there's a water sewer line that goes right past the property. What's going to generate a taxable revenue parcel of significance? What's going to create jobs? And one of the things that after we talked about that, I believe in our dirt group and some group we were discussing, again, the self-service storage units and mini warehouses. If you don't know what those are, on page 172, I included just a few pictures. So the comment came up, what about those in our city? And we have received a fair amount of requests. It's usually a weekly request that comes in that is asking where these can be put in our city. Right now they only are in the I-1 district. Being a heavy manufacturing city, the I-1 district is really reserved for those lower intensity, cohesive accessory, how do you want to put it, accessory businesses or industries that would go along with our heavy industry that's already in the city. So again, thinking to tax base, retention of our current large industries, how we can better help them, it would be to reserve that industrial land for more beneficial land uses. So it's one of those topics, and I think I have some articles from other communities, but it's one of those things where there's the argument of, well, it fills a space, it creates something on the parcel that when there was nothing, which is very true. But it also takes away the opportunity for something bigger and more beneficial to be there. Not to say that they don't have their place, but I think, talking amongst staff here, we feel the place is maybe outside the city in more of a rural setting, where they can have an abundance of them. We also have some restrictions in the city that doesn't make these as desirable, such as paving, lighting, and landscaping. So it does already make it a little bit difficult for these to go in. But again, something that, from my opinion, not something we really are looking for in the city, as the city is already tight on space. And we have higher priorities such as housing, job creation, and industry creation. So also want to get you guys' thoughts. By no means, am I not open to discussing keeping it in there. I just want to get you guys' thoughts on what you guys would think should be done.
So what's changed? I see it's highlighted.
So nothing's changed at this point. It was more of just a discussion that we would just remove it entirely.
Oh.
So to remove it entirely, it would be removed from this list, and I'd have to draft up a whole sequence. But if that wasn't a desired direction from the Plan Commission, I wasn't going to move forward with drafting that. So this would probably come back again in a discussion format with exactly how that would look. But wanted to get your guys' opinion on eliminating it altogether as a possible land use within the city. And I'll also say, if that goes forward, the current ones existing would be allowed to continue. It's, just new ones would not be able to be created.
The current ones that are here, could they expand on the same parcel?
So that'd be another discussion. So my thought would be, if they have a parcel already existing and they have a plan in place for what that overall development would look like, we would honor that plan. If they just wanted to toss in another one, just because they could, and it wasn't a part of a plan that was already provided to the city, then we would not allow it.
Yeah, my experience has been that our standards just don't make it a feasible project for most developers who want to do this. But I don't know. I'm kind of leaning not to take it out because of some, with a heated storage unit that's not, I don't know that our market could support that, but if it's maybe heated, maybe they can derive more rents, they can pave the lots, do the landscaping that we're going to require, and maybe keep it and just see if the market will bring that. I don't know that the U-Haul doesn't, they have heated units, right?
They have heated units, but that's because they went inside a building. So even at that, we wouldn't be prohibiting that. I mean, now they're indoor storage.
Right.
So that's still permitted.
So we have some heated units in the city.
Mm-hmm. But
people need
likelihood of them building a brand new building that's heated and fully amenities like that is probably pretty slim.
And to get the rents up to where that makes sense it's going to be a lot, but yeah.
And none of the proposals that I've talked to or that they've called, they've all said it's non-climate controlled storage. So.
Does anybody have strong opinion one way or the other on that?
I'm just going to make a comment. I think, Henry, to your point, that we do have standards that do prohibit them in most cases. We did have a situation recently in which we thought that would be the case, and they were willing to do the paving and meet the standards, and it was developed into some mini storage.
Standards have not yet been all the way met.
Oh,
So
What's what? I'm sorry.
For that
the required standards have not been met. A letter needs to be sent to them about doing that.
okay.
So additional staff time will have to go into that one.
They've committed to
Yeah.
executing the standards. Just in some internal conversations, to your point, yeah, there probably is a need in the market. There seems to have been a need in the market for a long time, just from city utilities and city, sewer and water and all the things that go into city lots. The reason this had come forward is we thought, well, there's still an opportunity for those types of developments in the townships, and that's still in our market. Just a little background on what we've talked about.
Right. Well, yeah, okay, I guess that's, the commissioners picked up on that, right? Because if you run past the water and sewer line, we make them connect, but these properties a lot of times don't have water and sewer, right?
Yep, there'd be no
So that-
connection really for
yeah.
them to connect to.
Yeah.
Purpose for them to connect. And a lot of time, if we're adding a new line, it would be a deferred assessment for when they connect. So if we ever ran a line past an existing, it would most likely be deferred and they may never connect. And that would be an additional burden on the sewer utility who would have to front, or the city who would have to front costs for that infrastructure, as well as the surrounding property owners.
Well, I guess we probably won't have people storming the gates if we take it out. I don't know. Yeah. Well, that might be one to defer to the mayor and the plan, as a plan commission chairman and the mayor, how to proceed, because we would have to pass an ordinance, right, to take it out.
Yep, correct.
Yeah. And because that is a change to our zoning ordinance, does that require public hearing?
It would.
Okay.
Yep. And that public hearing, because it would be a change to language, it would be at the council level.
Okay. Well, if the, I'm sensing the commission's kind of ambivalent about it. All right? Nobody's really cares. at
Sure,
this
but hearing the recent discussion, I'm leaning towards, I'd be okay moving forward with taking it out.
Could we just get a kind of a sense? How about you, Eric? You have a feeling one way or the other?
I could flip a coin and be fine, I think, but if people want to take it out, take it out. What do you want to do, Jared?
I want to do whatever you guys want to do.
Good answer.
Jared, I want you to bring donuts to the next meeting.
Yeah, in
the
all
loophole.
seriousness,
All right.
it's,
Oh, there you go.
Higher than that.
Can we make that a motion?
if our rules are really preventing this from occurring anyways,
It sounds like it's already pretty restrictive. I'm
Right,
not sure if
and-
we really gotta.
and we're getting the benefit of
Getting
these
anything
being built in
too
our
much
area.
sharper.
Yeah, it is restrictive. And I would say it's,
I'm concerned that
yeah.
the one that has agreed to it is not, how do we enforce it? Will there eventually be fines
If they do not follow the proper site plan requirements, we would send them citations until compliance is met. But of course, we're looking for compliance, so we'd rather work with them and
Sure,
not send citations.
absolutely.
So we reach out to them, send letters, give them time. I mean, of course, they have all winter because you can't pave, or it's pretty difficult to plant landscaping in winter. So they would have an abundance of time once we send this letter to get a timeline in order of when they would be able to meet those compliance requirements.
Can I make a suggestion, Jared?
Sure.
Maybe bring this back for another discussion with a map that shows I-1 zoning in the city.
Sure.
And it can give plan commissioners an idea of how many parcels we have left. And, if 20, or, if X amount of those parcels are taken up by mini storage units that may not be hooking up to water or sewer, that may not be providing jobs, what does that leave us with left for an opportunity for a development that provides more value, provides jobs, things like that? And if all of a sudden those I-1 parcels are taken up, what's our options as far as annexation or rezoning or those things? Maybe that would be helpful just
Sure.
to work.
Yeah, again, it doesn't sound like it's anything super pressing that staff or the city needs now, right? So we got time to deliberate it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't suppose you can tell us where this potential project is, or are they currently,
The issue one
yeah,
is near our airport.
Okay.
And that is, I will say, that is where the majority of our I-1 is near the airport. A lot of our industry kind of in our industrial park is I-2, just because it has filled in with heavier industrial uses. But really down in that area are a lot, is where the I-1 is left. And I will also say that we have adopted the Fulton Street corridor. So anywhere along Fulton Street where there's a B4 commercial unit, storage units can also be put. So if desired, many, I mean, you could see storage units right next to McDonald's, Pick and Save, where that Diva dialysis was, Taco Bell, you could see storage units all throughout that corridor, which is another question if that's something the Plan Commission would like to see in that corridor. So not just I-1, but the Fulton Street allows I-1 uses. So something else to consider.
good to know.
And I'll say, working on them to fix this, but the comments on U-Haul's mini storage units and their location was another main reason for this. Out in that parking lot. So.
All right, I guess the last part of the agenda is just some updates on your reports, department reports.
Yeah.
Anything interesting you want to comment on?
Nothing in particular. Now happy to ask any questions if you guys have any. Yeah.
I would like to just note that we have crossed our kind of building fee revenue threshold, which is great for what we budgeted for 2023. I think we budgeted $240,000 and passed that in October. So that means it's a fairly active building year, which is great. And actually some projects that we expected to happen that maybe haven't happened this year and maybe will happen next year. So
Awesome.
some in the hopper for 2024.
Commissioners, any comments? Otherwise, we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
What?
What did he? Okay, got a motion to adjourn by Dana and a second by Eric. All
No,
those-
it was me.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. Okay.
That's
I'm not
okay.
hearing very well.
Well, I recorded it right though.
Okay, thank you. All right, Justin, thanks for taking
Yep.
care of the part-time chair here. All right, so we got a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned at 6:15.
1 hour exactly.